in Quebec, I feel like comedy has been, for the most part, very, very white. To come back to when you were doing that audition and you were doing things about yourself, and they said, "Oh, you're doing ethnic comedy," or "We've seen this before," or Rashid Badouri, who's like Arab, but to them is like different. So yeah, it's the same. You guys are all the same.
Yeah.
You're doing him. I feel like in Quebec, because it's usually so white, they're not as welcoming to just different. We've had legends or just big names like Anthony Cavana, Michel Mambara, but there's not that many. And I'd like to ask you, how do you navigate through that field that's so dominated by white comedians?
So, first thing, it is dominated by white people, and you're surrounded by a lot of white people, and
that are not aware of your culture, or that don't necessarily relate to your jokes.
Oh, they do relate. I make sure they relate. Okay. Because first of all, when I joke and when I talk about a subject, I'm not necessarily talking about my opinion on the subject. I'm talking about how I feel. And it's hard to discuss feeling because my feeling, you probably felt the same way at some point in your life. Maybe the subject is not the same. But if I'm telling you I'm scared, you've been scared before. But if I'm telling you I'm scared of the cops, and you say, and the white man say, "Oh, I'm scared of, I don't know, like dogs." Well, we have the same feeling. You know what I mean? And when I do tell my jokes, I always make sure that I try to relate. Like, for example, one of the jokes, when I was talking about one of the joke that I wrote not too long ago, when I'm talking about interracial dating, and I'm picking a girl in the crowd, a white girl, and I'm telling you, like, if me and you were a couple, you know that no matter how much you love me and how much you support me, you will never understand the feeling of being black, how hard it is to being black, right? And I'm telling you, so for example, our relationship with the cops, blah, blah, blah. So I'm telling that, and at some point, I just find a way to describe her the feeling, and it's a joke that works very well. So basically, I'm telling her, okay, if I had to describe you the feeling that I have when I'm driving and there's cops just patrolling around, like for you it's normal, but for me it's like if you would be in the ocean, surrounded by sharks while you have your periods. And I'm telling you, this is how I feel every day. You know what I mean? So now she's like, "Oh shit, that would be fucked up." So now she understands how I feel. You know what I mean? So that's how I relate to people, even if I talk about my experience, my life. So that's how I found a way to always be able to relate. Of course, I'm not gonna. If my punches were about like something very cultural, about being black or being Congolese or being, of course, it would be harder to cross over or to be able to talk to the mainstream audience. You know what I mean? But this is not how I write. I write by telling you how I feel.